Even as I enjoyed my sister girl Bukeka singing, there is someone here in this. Have you all watched this young lady? She is so into. Little sister, I don't know your name, but I want you to know you into it. You are on it. And I want us to give her appreciation for signing. One thing about being an elder, you know when people are on it. And little sister is on it. And I didn't want to leave here today without acknowledging that and thanking her for her service. Within the hearts of all of us and each of us, there is a dream. There is a dream for some this dimension or expansion of good in our lives. We are all of us seeking greater good, greater and greater and greater good. We have a desire for that. And according to Emily Cady, writer of Lessons in Truth, desire is God knocking on the door of our consciousness with that greater good for us. And whatever we are asking for this morning, I know that somewhere we are asking for love to replace all the prejudice and negative judgments of others that are in the world. We want love. I know that somewhere some of us are praying not for a reducing of the violence, but to stop the violence and the demonstration of nonviolence. Some of us are seeking love, nonviolence, and peace. Peace that is so deep in us that it changes the world around us. Peace that is so profound that it brings an end to all the wars in Afghanistan and everywhere else where we want peace. And so I'm suggesting that somewhere in this room, there is someone who wants to demonstrate love. May I have an amen? Amen. There is somebody who wants to demonstrate nonviolence. May I have an amen? Amen. And there is somebody somewhere who wants to demonstrate peace. May I have an amen? Amen. And we were probably wanting to demonstrate love, nonviolence, and peace this time last year. And year before that. It's like every time there is a major violent episode in our nation, everybody comes together, all the talking heads come together, and we're going to find a solution. We're going to find a way to reduce the violence. Well, thank you. That's the problem. They're just trying to reduce the violence. We need to find a way to what? Stop the violence. And the way to stop the violence is to demonstrate what Jesus taught 2,000 years ago, which is nonviolence. But somehow or another, we don't get there. There's some of us, and I'm not pointing any fingers because I ain't the kind of person, but there are some of us that are trying to demonstrate prosperity, and we were trying to demonstrate prosperity this time last year. I know there are some of you trying to demonstrate the divine design of your perfect mate because you're on my prayer list. Been looking for that divine design as long as I've known you. Ain't demonstrated it yet. Health. Ooh, Sallye Taylor, you just got to pray with me. I got the arthritis. Arthur has come to visit us the way old folks used to call it when I was little. And I know all about that as I get older. There are many things that some of us, including me, have been trying to demonstrate for a long time. And somehow or another, we don't quite make that demonstration, and we wonder why. Well, something said by President Lincoln in the movie Lincoln really struck me and stayed with me. Because as I have reflected on what he said, more and more I realize that as a metaphor, not only was it good politics, but it's a good description of how consciousness works. Here's the deal. In the movie, President Lincoln is dealing with Representative Thaddeus Stevens. Any of you go see the movie? Thaddeus Stevens is played by Tom Jones. Tom, what's his name? And he plays that they ought to give him an Academy Award just for that toupee he was wearing on his head. His toupee was round, so any way he put it on, it would fit. Now, Thaddeus Stevens was a proponent of the freeing of the slaves. For him, it was a matter of principle. He wanted the slaves free. And he was concerned because Abraham Lincoln, who said he was going to free the slaves, was taking so long and going out such a roundabout way of getting that done that Thaddeus Stevens was just losing all patience with the man. And so he and Lincoln were having a talk on this subject. And what Lincoln said to him in effect was this: a compass will point you true north, but it won't show you the swamps between you and there. If you don't avoid the swamps, what's the use of knowing true north? For you'll never reach your destination. We head true north. We want to reach the destination of true north, but we get bogged down in the swamps. Now, not only is what he's saying excellent political discourse, it also is true of how consciousness works. Now, let me say that for those of you who have not seen the movie, Lincoln, the movie, is not really about him freeing the slaves. That happens. But what the movie is about is how Abraham Lincoln was a consummate politician. He understood the system, and he could work it to get things done. Thaddeus Stevens, as a man, had great principles, stood on principle, was big on principle, but he didn't get anything done. I know some folks like that. But because I want to be invited back, even I'm going to watch. The point I want to make is we are here to get things done. We are here not just to know this stuff and say, ooh, they teach some good stuff at that church at 103rd and Antioch. But we are here to demonstrate it. I come from Johnny Coleman. Johnny stood on the platform every Sunday and said, if you can't demonstrate it, it don't make no difference no way. The point of truth is for you to demonstrate it in your life. And it can be demonstrated. Living witness, it does work. But as Johnny also says, you got to work it. We need, in Washington, master politicians like Abraham Lincoln. We need people who understand the system and who can work the system. Not only do we need it there, but we need it here. And we need it in here. Because this is the way life works. There is a way that life works. Repeat after me. There is a way that life works. But we have to know what that way is, and we have to work it. Now, I know there are those of us that are very important. Our egos tell us that we are very important, and we think that the way it works doesn't apply to us. You know, we're the kind of person who says, the law don't apply to me. And we think that we can come over to the edge of the house and step off and gravity won't pull us to the ground. But it does work for everybody. And so true north, our desired good, can be reached. And if true north is love, if true north is nonviolence, if true north is peace, then friends, that's something we can all reach, provided that we are willing to go through change. The reason these talking experts are not really changing anything, are not really, not only not stopping the violence, but in fact are not reducing the violence, the reason for that is because they don't know something that we who are true students understand. Hear me. And if you are a note-taking person, if you're the kind of person that want to write down the good stuff, this is the good stuff. Take out your pen and start writing. Things change in the outer for the better, not because we change them, but because we change ourselves. That's good stuff. It's true. Things change in the outer for the better, not because we change them, but, come on, because we change ourselves. And we change ourselves on the inside. And that's why we get in trouble, because it's an inside job. And we know what we look like on the outside much better than we know what we look like on the inside. Come on. We know our outer self very well. We down at the gym every other day, walking the machines and lifting the weights, exercising. Ooh, let me go exercise. Ooh, let me get on this diet and don't eat this and don't eat that. I know people who think food makes them fat. The best diet I ever ran across was a woman. She is a minister in Johnny Coleman's organization, the Universal Foundation for Better Living, and she is their minister in the Bahamas. And she was a little overweight. She was quite a lot overweight. But she decided about 3 Januaries ago that she was going to release and let go everything in her mind and heart that wasn't the truth. And she spent every day, all day, releasing stuff, thoughts and feelings and hurt feelings and resentment. And you know all the stuff we carry around with us. Come on, amen. Amen. She started releasing that stuff, and I promise you by June, she had lost 50 pounds. She didn't change her eating. She didn't change her exercise. She ate what she wanted, and she never did like exercise. But she truly released and released and released. And with it, the weight just poured off. She wasn't doing it to lose weight. She was doing it to have peace in her heart. And the residual effect was the best weight loss program I have ever seen. And then she discovered, as I have discovered, there's a whole lot more going on with the obesity in America than just what people are eating. It's what we're holding on to. It's that stuff. And you know the stuff I'm talking about. Now, all of this has to be changed on the inside of us. And most of us don't know the inside. That is a mystery. It is unexplored. We spend more time trying to save about money and go to China and Europe than we do trying to go inside of ourselves. And so we don't know what's in there, and that's where Sally's love detective. See, it's not love detective, it's love detective. Come on, what is it? You need the love detective to go inside and find what is there that needs to be transformed and to transform it. And that is because the love detective represents your faculty. You do know the 12 power faculties. You know about, okay. It represents the faculty of love added to and working with the faculty of discernment, which is a part of wisdom and good judgment. Love detective equals love plus discernment. And when we take the love, we got to hire the love detective. You got to engage the love detective. In other words, you got to call forth love and discernment, because love is a magnet that draws to us that space in us that is spiritual. It takes love to get to the essence of our being, because love is what? The essence of our being. Love is the truest nature of who we are. God is love, and God is us and in us as love. So when you engage the love detective knows the way. The love detective can get you to true north around the swamps. With the love detective discerning and seeing and perceiving what's going on in us, don't you with me here? Don't you see it? The love detective can help us avoid getting bogged down in the swamp so that we reach our destination of true north. That's what the inner love detective can do. We need the love detective. Now, there are those of you who say, now, Sallye, I know you, and I saw you at the mystery bookstore, and I know that you are a lover of detective stories of all kinds, and I am. What can I say? I grew up on Nancy Drew. I just absolutely love a good detective story. Currently, I am enjoying on Acorn TV, Dirk Gennett, what's his name, George Gently. That's another detective. But there is a new one. He's called Dirk Gently. He is a holistic detective. And his method of investigation is seeing the interrelationship between all things. Does that sound hot or what? See, I love this stuff because it represents something in us. It represents a way for us to become healed and whole and free. It represents a way for us to know ourselves more clearly and to love ourselves more dearly. I love this detective stuff. Because you see, until we can make a change, and the change that we want to make is where we live inside of ourselves. We call that your internal reference point. The place that you come from out into the world every day. Every day, including this morning, we get up at home and we get ready to go out into the world. Well, some of us got up at home. Well, wherever you got up and got yourself ready in the place where you live, and you came out into the world. Am I right? Amen. What you may not know is that on an inner level, you also have a home, a place where you live inside of yourself most of the time. And it is from that place that you come out into the world. Now, what I'm suggesting is the place that you mostly live is focused on our human, personal, and physical self. That self that we know the most about. But there is a dimension of God within us. It beats our heart, grows our hair, or not, as the case may be, and keeps our lungs breathing in and out. We've become so accustomed to taking this divine spiritual invisibleness for granted. We just take it for granted. We just marching around on the planet, able to move, woo. able to breathe, and paying no attention to that which makes that happen. Am I making sense? What I'm suggesting today is that for us to change what needs to be changed so that we can reach true north, and that is living in a world where at least somebody is living from love, where at least somebody is living nonviolently, at least somebody is living in peace. To do that, then we have to move from always being focused on our physical human self and becoming absolute focused in the realization of our spiritual self. I know we walk around in unity. I behold the Christ in you. Ooh, I behold the Christ in you. Can't behold the Christ in yourself. And friends, until you can behold the Christ in yourself, I don't mean any harm, how can you see it somewhere else? We must come to see the Christ in ourselves. We have to feel it. It has to be a part of us that we realize. It has to become real for us. Because when our spiritual nature is as real as this physical to us, we will change the world. We will have a love in us that allows us to practice the teachings of Jesus, which is love your enemies. You see, moving from where we are to where we want to go is like hiring a moving van to move all the furniture when you move from one house to the other. And the name of this moving van, can't you see it, little wheels on it? Jesus is driving it. And the name of it is Love Your Enemies. Now, in unity, we read the Bible from what Marcus Borg calls a new set of lens. The old set of lens, we read the Bible literally and we interpreted it literally. There was a time everybody did that. Today, we appropriate the information that we get from modern biblical scholarship. And we understand that we limit our understanding of the text if we read it literally. This is my pet peeve. Unity ministers that I know and love who would never interpret the Bible literally, read it literally all the time. And the Bible teacher in me just goes, ooh. And it is for that reason that I wrote my little book, Unity in the Bible. And I'm sending one to every unity minister that I can get an address for. It's time, friends. It's time for us to get this information and use it to improve our lives. Because until we understand the historical context, for example, Jesus teaching, love your enemies. Now, you think he was doing it dressed in beautiful white clothes, trimmed in blue, upon a mountainside, with lots of cute little children sitting all around him. Ain't what happened. The historical Jesus was a peasant, and he did most of his teaching after dinner in people's homes. Peasants weren't out sitting on the mountainside. They were in the field working. Where were they? In the field working. Jesus came and he had meals with them, and that's when he did the teaching. Now, the first century peasants that he was teaching lived in a world more violent than the world we live in, because their land was occupied by the Roman army. And history tells us there was no one more violent than the Roman army. If you want a sense of how violent they were, check out Mel Gibson's movie on the crucifixion of Jesus. And recognize that they didn't just do that to Jesus. They did that to thousands of people. They would crucify them and line the roads with them as an example to the other peasants to keep them in their place. Now, the peasants whose land was occupied wanted to get the occupiers out of their land. If there was a occupying army up and down the streets of Overland Park, everybody in Overland Park would be working on getting them out. And the Jewish people wanted to get the Romans out of their land, but they wanted to get them out through violence. They wanted to use guerrilla warfare as it had been used before by the Maccabees to get out an army that was bigger than and stronger than they were. And they were looking for a leader. They were looking for somebody charismatic and spirit-filled to lead them in this war against Rome. And somebody told them about this man, Jesus. They said, you ought to go hear this man because this man got the power. He's healing folks. He's raising the dead. He's walking on water. He must be the one. And they all went running over to Jesus, listening, and the man is trying to tell them to love their enemies. We don't want to love them. We want to beat them up. We want to kick them out. You want us to do what? And there are places in the scripture where we learn that many no longer followed after him because what he was teaching was too radical. He wasn't talking about changing in the outer. He was talking about what? Changing the inner. Because, friends, there's a paradox here. In almost all of the teachings of the historical Jesus, the authentic words of the historical Jesus is paradox. And the paradox is, if you love your enemy, come on, you ain't got no enemies. That's what Jesus was teaching them, and that's what we must learn. That's what we must do when we are moving out of the part of us that is caught up in our human negativity and move into the part of us that is spiritual. You don't have to make it up. You don't have to go over to Bokeka's house and ask her to give you some of hers. You don't have to be waiting on Bob Barf to borrow some of his. All the spirit you need is already within you. All the love you need is already within you. All that you need already lives within you, but you have to move in consciousness from the lower to the higher. You have to move from your human, limited mindset into a spiritual truth mindset. You have to move. And you don't just move once a day. I used to think that. I'd get up in the morning early, and I'd get prayed up. And I would have all my stuff duly moved from the human spirit to the spiritual. And I'd get in my little car and I'd go forth. That lasted till about 9:30, 10 o'clock. And if I had to drive on 435, it didn't last that long. And so I found that I have to move from my human to my spiritual by having it real to me. What can you begin to do right now? Hear me. That makes the spiritual part of you more real. What does it look like? What concept of it do you have so that you can think about it and talk about it to yourself? What does it sound like as a voice inside your head? What is your spiritual self truly like? Today, begin to ask and answer that question. What does the spirit in me look like, taste like, feel like? How's the difference? How does it feel different to be in my human stuff and to be in my spiritual stuff? There's a difference. Find what this one feels like and looks like. For me, when I am in my spiritual self, there is a sense of well-being, no matter what. There is a sense of peace and inner well-being that I can maintain in spite of how much money is in the bank or what's going on in my life. And there's always going to be folks, and there's always going to be stuff. But when I can maintain peace and love and nonviolence, when I can go to the store and be treated by or waited on by one of these rude young people, you know the ones I'm talking about, and want to hug and embrace them instead of smacking them. Don't you just want to smack some of them? I know they don't do that anymore. But that could be the reason. Well, I'm going to leave that alone too. All right. I'm suggesting that there are ways that we can get into the spiritual part of ourselves that will carry us out into the world to treat ourselves and others better. Loving. But you have to be prepared to go from the human beingness to the spiritual beingness over and over and over again. You have to get there, and when you find that you've fallen back and you want to smack somebody, just get back there again. And get back there again. And get back there again. Am I making any sense? And I have found that one of the things that helps me get there is this little poem or this reading from Prayer Thoughts for Today from Soul Food Unity. This is from the work of the writings of Mother Teresa. And when I read across it, I thought, oh, this is very important. And we have a service. May I mention this? I don't want to be advertising the wrong thing up here. Okay. All right. Soul Food Unity sends out a prayer thought from Sallye every Monday, every Wednesday, and every Friday. And these are a collection of some of the prayer thoughts that went out last year. And my favorite one, and I'm closing with it because this will get you from your human want to smack them to your spiritual want to love them. And you have to get there more than what? Once a day. And the title of this is the Do It Anyway prayer. Just absolutely carry this around with you in your pocket. Notice that these little books, and there are 4 of them back there, 4 different ones, and they are pocket size so that you can keep them in your pocket. And when you need to make that move, when it comes up on you that you in to smack them, not to love them, are you with me? Whip it out. You got to whip it out. You know how to whip it out, right? The same way you whip out the daily word. You have to whip it out and read it and work with it until you move from smacking them to loving them. And here is the Do It Anyway prayer. People are often unreasonable, irrational, and self-centered. Love them anyway. If you are kind, people may accuse you of selfish, ulterior motive, but be kind anyway. If you are successful, you will win some unfaithful friends, but succeed anyway. If you are honest and sincere, people may try to deceive you. Be honest and sincere anyway. What you spend years creating, others may seem and seek to destroy, but create anyway. If you are serene and happy, enjoying your life, some people are going to be jealous of you. But be what? Serene and happy and enjoy your life anyway. The good you do today will often be forgotten, but do good. Give the best you have. And for some people, it will never be enough. But give your best anyway. For in the final analysis, it is between God and us. It has never been between them and us anyway. Friends, do what it takes to move from smacking them to loving them. Move from our human, personal, internal reference to our spiritual reference. And we will come to know the truth. And God's truth will set us free. God bless you.